So what we're going to be doing in this practice that we're going to do together is turning toward difficulty. And I know it sounds counterintuitive, like, aren't we trying to not have difficulty at all? But one of the reasons why mindfulness seems to work is that it helps people really understand what's truly going on, the sensations in the body, the thoughts and emotions in the mind, and what's actually happening around them. And to do this, first we need to get curious about things we don't like, things we do like, and those that we are neutral about. And this is called equanimity. Now, don't get me wrong, sometimes avoidance is actually the best thing you can do for self-care or for self-preservation for that matter. But overall, if we want to get to the bottom of things, we have to eventually face them and investigate them, really accept them, and then we can make choices once we know what's actually there. And so we're going to be doing this practice called mindfulness of breath, body, and intense physical sensations. But what do I mean by intense physical sensations? And usually when I'm teaching to a room of people, we come up with what those things might be together. But what usually comes up is basically anything that might become overwhelming, like a physical sensation that might become overwhelming when you're sitting for a long time or standing or whatever other piece you might be doing. And so this could be like a tickle, an itch you really want to scratch, extremes of temperature or moisture, cramping, pins and needles, tingling pain, gnawing pain, muscle twitch, or intense pressure. Anything that kind of makes you want to move and not be still. So those are what we're going to be kind of looking at during this practice. And it's going to be a short practice. Usually when I'm doing this practice, it's actually for quite a bit longer. But because we didn't know how long folks would be able to tolerate who are watching this video, we're going to keep it short. But you can email me after to get actually longer versions of recordings of me guiding this practice sent to you. And just remember that you can stop at any time, remembering the strategies from the window of tolerance slide. One final reminder, choosing self-care is equally important to choosing to challenge yourself. There's no need to tough it out, like I said earlier. Okay. So usually the first thing we do is set up our posture. Now, I'm going to set up the posture for sitting, but of course, finding a comfortable position, if sitting doesn't work, what we're trying to do is find a balance between being relaxed and also being alert. So in the case of sitting, usually want to have a straight spine, a straight back, and the head in line with the spine. And we want to have the hands on the thighs or in the lap, whatever works for you, and kind of letting go of any tension that's in the shoulders or in the jaw, or anywhere else you're carrying tension, and closing the eyes if that works for you. And if it doesn't work for you, generally like looking a few feet ahead of you, kind of with a downward gaze, kind of a out of focus gaze, works well. And the first thing we're going to do is kind of check in with the body just for a moment. Just noticing the points of contact with the chair or the floor, and noticing the contact of the clothes with the body. Just checking in with his body for a moment. Now I'm going to ask you to narrow the attention to the breath. The physical sensations of breathing where they're most prominent for you. So this could be at the nostrils, at the chest, or at the belly, or somewhere else. Wherever it is, just narrowing the attention, zeroing in on that area, and following each inhale and exhale, and any space between. So we're not trying to breathe in any particular way. We're not trying to change the breath in any way. We're just kind of being with each breath, almost like it's the first time we're noticing it. And if the attention should move to some other aspect of experience, like thoughts, worries, emotions, noises, other parts of the body, this is totally normal. In fact, like we said earlier, this waking up is really important to mindfulness. And not giving ourselves a hard time, just gently steering the attention back to the breath, those physical sensations of breathing where they're felt most prominently for you. And on the next out breath, letting go of this primary attention to breathing. And on the in breath, widening the attention now to the entire body. Noticing the front body, the back body, the top of the body, and the parts that are making contact with surfaces. The surface of the body at the skin, and also the sensation of inside the body. Kind of moving between this sensation of the entire body and any individual sensations that arise. So when a sensation grabs the attention, really getting to know it, getting curious about it, and being open to sensations as they come along, whether they're wanted, unwanted, or neutral. Turning toward them and really checking them out. How deep are they, or how intense are they? Is it tingling? Is it a twitch? Is there moisture? Is there discomfort or ease? Whatever it is, just getting curious about it. And when that sensation no longer holds the attention, then moving on to the next sensation that grabs the attention. Now you may find here that some sensations are particularly intense. And this is the case, we turn toward them even more, really trying to unpack what they're all about, getting really, really curious. And if they get even more intense, a choice we can make is to breathe into the area on the in-breath, and on the out-breath, softening the area. And this isn't to change the sensation in any way, but it helps us prolong how long we can investigate the area. And then, of course, we always have another choice, which is if the sensation becomes particularly intense or painful, in fact, we can always choose to move the body and choose self-care. So in this case, we're just mindfully moving the body to another posture that alleviates the sensation. And then perhaps coming back to the original posture when you're ready, or keeping this new posture, whatever works. And then on the next out-breath, letting go of this attention to the intense physical sensations. And on the in-breath, narrowing the attention again to the physical sensations of breathing, where they're most vivid for you. Following a few breaths here. And when you're ready, opening the eyes if they were closed. Or if you'd like to practice further, pressing pause and continuing to practice. For those continuing on, opening the eyes, looking around the room, taking in light, shadow, color, and even stopping to take a quick look over the left shoulder behind you and a quick look over the right shoulder as well. And then joining us back on the screen when you're ready. What we do after a practice is something called inquiry, or experiential inquiry. And I ask a series of questions to the group. In this case, I won't be able to hear your answers. And so what I'm going to do is ask the questions, all the questions, and then you can press pause and you can write down the answers to the questions and then come back when you're ready. So the questions are, what did you notice? What came up during the practice? And try to stay focused on what happened in the actual practice over the last few minutes. And then what happened? And then what happened after that? Try to write everything that you experienced during that time, if you can. And then when you finish that, try to write the answer to, how might this practice help with managing chronic pain and being well? All right, see you in a minute. Okay, welcome back. So here I'm going to talk about some of the things that often come up in this practice because I can't know what you actually wrote down. Here's a few things that people have said when an inquiry after we do this practice together. Of course, there are as many experiences of practices as there are people and times those people have done the practice. So whatever showed up was what showed up, and you being able to describe that and notice what was happening is what mindfulness is all about. There's no right answers or wrong answers. So here's a great example of something that often comes up in this. So this person said, the attention to the breath really helped me relax. I noticed I was relaxing quite a lot, and that the pain was more in the background when I was focusing on the breath. And then when we shifted to the whole body and the intense sensations, I actually got overwhelmed and I started to panic a bit that the pain in my lower back was getting worse. But I remembered my window of tolerance and I went back to focusing on the breath and was able to settle. And I just stayed with the breath for the rest of the practice. Here's another person's. I was investigating this lower back pain and I was finding it more of an intense pressure. I usually never think of it that way. I think of it as pain, and people assume it's stabbing pain. But in this case, it was more of an intense pressure. And I was also noticing alongside that there was a separate thing, which was my worry about it getting worse. And so I was able to kind of bring those two, take those two apart and just really focus on the actual physical attributes of the pain. And finally, another person said, I was able to watch the pain the whole time. And it was always there, like usual, but what was different is that I noticed it actually moved around a bit. And the intensity kind of waxed and waned, even in that short time. So these are just examples, like I said, of things that come up. And why this is because pain is a complex experience. So the way that we experience pain is affected by many factors. So there's the physical sensations that we're feeling that are there, and that intensity. But there's also all sorts of other things that accompany that, like the emotional state you're in. For instance, like, I'm mad that I'm feeling this way. Or your beliefs about pain. Like, this pain means there's something seriously wrong with me. Or expectations you might have, like, these painkillers aren't going to work. And of course, there's the environment or the social side of things, like, I don't have anyone to talk about how I feel. In fact, pain is usually categorized into these three major components: the physical sensations, the emotional response to those sensations, and the social effects of the whole experience. Mindfulness can help you tune into the difference between these three experiences, making it possible to reduce the suffering associated with the pain. So not the pain itself, but the suffering that comes along with it, without necessarily reducing that severity of the pain itself. It can also help you approach your pain with less fear and more acceptance, allowing you to live life fully, even though you have it. So I really like this quote here, and I'll let you read that on the slide. Mindfulness is not like traditional painkillers, which are intended to dull or eliminate pain. While many experts recommend mindfulness-based practices to manage pain, the goal is typically not to remove pain entirely, but to change your relationship with it so that you're able to experience relief and healing in the middle of uncomfortable physical sensations. And this comes from the Taking Charge of Your Health and Wellness program at the University of Minnesota. I'd like to end there. But here's a few resources that might help along the way, going forward. So you can first feel free to contact me at Ron at mindfulcommunities.ca or at my number there. And if you're looking for these 8-week evidence-based courses that we were talking about, like MBSR and MBCT, or mindful meetups or brief introductory courses with folks that are local to the Fraser Valley and online, there's the Mindful Communities piece there. There's also another group of people who are at mbsrbc.ca, and they have a list of classes in BC. And there's the folks that I learned from at Center of Mindfulness Studies, and they have recorded meditations you can tap into at the website there, and then also on their Insight Timer address. But please feel free to contact me for more recorded meditations, or if you have any questions. And thank you so much for your time, and I hope to see you sometime soon.